The planet was nothing more than a speck in the vastness of space, unremarkable to the hundreds of advanced civilizations that spanned the galaxy. It was an ancient, barren world, its surface pockmarked by the passage of time, its skies painted with swirling clouds of dust and ash. To most, it was a forgotten relic of a bygone era. Yet, for the team of alien archaeologists from the Orcs Collective, it was the discovery of a lifetime. They had come here following cryptic readings from long-forgotten star charts, and after months of painstaking excavation, they had uncovered something extraordinary. As their mining tools cut through layers of rock and soil, the team found themselves staring at the edge of a massive, smooth surface, the unmistakable outline of a gigantic structure buried deep beneath the planet's crust. The material that made up the relic seemed to defy all known principles of physics, unlike anything the Orcs had ever seen. It glowed faintly, a pulse that felt almost alive, as if it had been waiting for someone to uncover it. One of the archaeologists, a veteran of many ancient digs, gasped in awe as they brushed aside the final layer of stone. This isn't just a structure," they murmured. "This is a machine. But it's like nothing we've ever encountered." The team fell into stunned silence, their sensors buzzing with strange energy readings. As they stepped back, they realized that this machine was far too intricate, too advanced for any known species to have built. The markings on its surface were unfamiliar, yet there was an undeniable sense of purpose to its design. And then, suddenly, the air around them shifted. A low hum reverberated through the ground, faint but unmistakable. It was as if the relic had awakened, its ancient systems coming to life. One of the archaeologists quickly checked their scanner. The readings were off the charts. The relic was not only active but sending out powerful energy waves. "We need to back away," another scientist urged, but it was already too late. The hum grew louder, and with a flash of light, the artifact seemed to resonate with an invisible force. The effects were immediate. Throughout the galaxy, countless systems experienced disruptions. Communications flickered, star maps distorted, and gravitational anomalies formed in distant star systems. Within moments, the news of the relic's activation spread like wildfire. Galactic empires, once content in their separate spheres of influence, now turned their eyes to this mysterious object. Its awakening wasn't just a scientific marvel, it was a harbinger of something far more profound. On distant planets, in the capital halls of powerful empires, leaders and officials gathered in shock. What could this relic be? And why had it suddenly activated after lying dormant for millennia? Whispers spread among the galaxy's most powerful factions. Is it a weapon? A message? A tool of power? The more the archaeologists attempted to study the relic, the more baffling it became. Attempts to decode its language and unlock its mechanisms met with little success. No one knew what it was, but everyone agreed on one thing. They needed to understand it. The galaxy held its breath, waiting for the next move, for the next piece of this cosmic puzzle to fall into place. And as they did, one thought echoed across all minds. What would happen if the humans of old had left behind something like this? Something that could change everything. The days following the relic's awakening were filled with tension. News spread like wildfire across the galaxy, sparking interest and fear in equal measure. Alien factions, each with their own agendas, scrambled to understand the implications of the dormant relic coming to life. Scientific teams from every corner of the galaxy raced to the Orcs Collective's dig site, eager to get their hands on the artifact and its secrets. The hum of the relic continued, its eerie resonance filling the air, as if it was waiting for something, or someone, to interact with it. Back at the site, the Orcs archaeologists had set up a perimeter. The relic's energy readings were growing stronger, pulsating like a heartbeat. Despite the scientists' best efforts to isolate the artifact's functions, no one could make sense of what was happening. It wasn't just a mechanical object. It felt almost alive. The hum grew louder, more insistent. Each vibration seemed to shake the very core of the planet, sending ripples through the air, rattling the equipment. "What is this thing?" one of the IRIX scientists whispered, staring at the large, complex structure. "It's more than just an artifact. It's reacting to us, to our presence." As the team continued their observations, a figure entered the excavation site. A human. Unlike the alien archaeologists, who were unsure how to approach this new development, the human had a sense of confidence that seemed to resonate with the relic. He was a descendant of the ancient humans who had once ruled the galaxy, a scholar with deep knowledge of forgotten human history. His name was Elias Voss, and his arrival was both anticipated and feared by those around him. The other archaeologists exchanged uneasy glances. The human had been invited because of his expertise in ancient relics, but no one had expected this kind of development. The timing was too strange, too coincidental. Was this relic truly connected to humanity? And if so, what could it mean for the galaxy? Elias approached the relic cautiously, studying its surface with the practiced eye of a scholar. "It's not just a relic," he murmured. "It's a message." His fingers brushed lightly against the smooth, pulsating surface. The moment he made contact, the relic shuddered, and a brilliant flash of light enveloped him. For a split second, the entire excavation site seemed to disappear. The world around Elias spun as his mind was flooded with visions of a time long past. He saw images of towering human cities, fleets of ships that spanned across entire star systems, and faces of men and women whose expressions were filled with both pride and regret. The vision was overwhelming, but Elias managed to focus on a single thought that persisted. This relic, it's not just a piece of human history, it's a key to something more. The hum of the relic suddenly ceased, replaced by a low, almost reverent tone. The energy radiating from the artifact flickered and pulsed in time with Elias's heartbeat. His connection to it deepened, and for the first time, he understood what the relic wanted. It was speaking to him. It recognized him as one of its own. The IRIX scientists watched in silence, unsure of what to do. The power that flowed from the relic seemed to grow with every second Elias spent interacting with it. The air felt thick with tension, as if something monumental was on the verge of happening. One of the IRIX scientists finally found his voice. "Do you understand it?" the scientist asked, his voice quivering with a mixture of awe and fear. Elias pulled his hand away slowly, blinking as he returned to the present. His expression was pale, his eyes wide with the weight of the experience. "It's more than I thought," he said, his voice hoarse. "This relic, it isn't just a message. It's a test, and the galaxy has been waiting for it." The scientists exchanged nervous glances. The relic's hum had returned, but this time, it seemed different. It was no longer just a noise in the background. It felt like a summons, a challenge. Far beyond the distant stars, in the corridors of power across the galaxy, news of the relic's activation spread like wildfire. Political leaders, military commanders, and scholars of every race began to make plans. The relic was a symbol of something much larger than anyone had anticipated. Its very existence had the potential to reshape the galaxy, and all eyes were now fixed on the planet where it had awoken. And then, as if the relic had anticipated their every move, it released a surge of energy that resonated through the galaxy. A burst of light shot up into the sky, visible across star systems. For a brief moment, every race, every empire, felt the power of the artifact. They could no longer ignore it. It was a signal. The galaxy was being watched, and the whole galaxy was watching back. The air around the excavation site was thick with anticipation. The energy from the relic still hummed, sending vibrations through the ground, rattling the equipment and shaking the nerves of everyone present. The IRIX scientists stood frozen, eyes glued to the human standing before the relic. Elias Voss, his hand now withdrawn from the artifact, was clearly shaken by his encounter with the ancient machine. His breath came in short bursts, and his normally steady hands trembled as he wiped sweat from his brow. For a moment, The other archaeologists exchanged nervous glances. The relic had reacted to Elias. It had recognized him. What did that mean? What was this ancient connection, this bond between the human and the artifact? And more importantly, what was the relic trying to tell them? Elias took a deep breath and glanced around at the gathered group of alien scientists and archaeologists. His mind raced with the visions he had just experienced, the glimpses of humanity's once great empire, of vast fleets and planets ruled by their kind, of a galaxy once shaped by human hands. The relic was more than just an artifact. It was a reminder of humanity's power, their downfall, and their purpose in the galaxy. I need to try something, Elias said, his voice hoarse. The HFY scientists stiffened, unsure of what this human intended. Some of them were still in shock from his connection to the relic. Others feared the power the relic could unleash. But Elias moved toward the relic again, his hand hovering over the surface. His heart raced as he felt the energy from the relic pulse against his skin. With a deep breath, he pressed his palm flat against it. The moment he did, the hum deepened. It was no longer just a vibration. It was a low, resonating tone that seemed to reverberate through his very bones. The light from the relic brightened, almost blinding. Elias closed his eyes, allowing himself to be enveloped by the sensation. In that moment, the relic seemed to come alive around him, the ancient technology whispering to him in a language older than the stars. The images flooded back again, this time clearer and more intense. He saw the rise and fall of the human empire, their unmatched knowledge, their power, and ultimately, their destruction. But there was something more this time, something that made his blood run cold. The relic's purpose wasn't just to remember the past. It held the past, a warning, perhaps, or a testament to humanity's once immense reach. But why had it awoken now? Was it calling for something, or someone? Elias, one of the HFY scientists, said cautiously, "What do you see?" Elias blinked, breaking from the vision, and his hand fell away from the relic. It's showing me a choice," he said, his voice shaking. The galaxy was once shaped by humanity. We were the force that moved stars and bent the will of the universe, but we paid a terrible price for it. The HFY archaeologists looked at each other, trying to piece together the significance of what Elias had just said. They couldn't deny the importance of his words. The galaxy had long thought that humanity had disappeared, lost to the annals of history. But now, a living relic from their past was making it clear that they hadn't disappeared at all. They had left behind something that could change everything. "I believe this relic is calling for humanity," Elias continued, his eyes narrowing with determination. "It wants us to remember what we were, and it wants the galaxy to remember too." Just as the words left his lips, the relic's energy spiked, sending out a ripple of power that was felt across the stars. A wave of light stretched out into the cosmos, visible from distant planets. The hum intensified, as if it were responding to the call. Far beyond the planet, in distant star systems, the power of the relic reached out. On worlds of all species, be they Scythan, Korath, or Thelav, every sentient being felt the surge. News of the relic's activation spread like wildfire, stirring an undeniable sense of urgency in the galaxy. Was this the rebirth of the human empire? Or was it something far more dangerous, something that would threaten the fragile balance of power across the galaxy? The galaxy was watching, waiting for the next move. But as Elias stared into the glowing surface of the relic, he realized that the true question wasn't whether humanity would return. It was whether the galaxy was ready for what would come next. And as the hum filled the air once more, he knew that this was only the beginning. The relic continued to pulse with an eerie rhythmic hum, its energy swelling in waves that washed over the planet's surface. Each pulse seemed to reverberate through the very core of the world, shaking the ground beneath the feet of the scientists. The air around the excavation site shimmered with power, and the feeling of anticipation hung thick in the air. As Elias Voss stood before the artifact, his thoughts raced. What had he uncovered? What was it that the relic was trying to show him? The images had flooded his mind, overwhelming his senses. He had seen visions of humanity's rise. Immense cities carved into the faces of planets, fleets of ships that stretched to the edges of the galaxy, humans who once commanded the stars with ease. They had been the architects of a thriving galactic empire. Their influence had been felt across every known system. But those visions had shifted, darkened, revealing a fall unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The relic was not just a reminder of humanity's past glory, it was a record of their mistakes. Elias's heart pounded as the weight of the vision crushed him. He had seen their arrogance, their thirst for power, their refusal to heed warnings. The human empire had fallen, not due to some external force, but because of their own hubris, their own unchecked ambition. It had all collapsed into chaos. The relic, in all its silence, had been humanity's last attempt at preserving its memory. This relic, Elias whispered, his voice barely audible. It's more than just a warning. It's a record, a memory. The Orcs scientists, who had been watching from a distance, now gathered closer. Their faces were a mixture of awe and fear, for they could sense the gravity of what was unfolding. One of the Orcs researchers, a seasoned scholar named Asha, approached him carefully. "Do you know what it means?" she asked, her voice trembling. "What does it want?" Elias turned slowly, his eyes distant, as though he were seeing the past, not the present. "I don't think it's a matter of wanting something," he said, his voice low. "It's more like a test, a reminder of what could happen if we repeat the mistakes of the past." The relic thrummed, almost as if it were reacting to Elias's words. He closed his eyes and took another deep breath. Images of a once great civilization, proud and untouchable, began to flood his mind once more. He saw humanity's technological marvels, their creations that defied the laws of nature, their cities that reached into the very fabric of space itself. But just as quickly, he saw the downfall, the war that tore them apart, the experiments that went awry, the catastrophic events that led to the galaxy's sudden and violent rejection of humanity's power. The relic was not just a historical artifact. It was a warning for what could happen again if its knowledge was unleashed recklessly. Elias's heart sank as he understood what it meant. Humanity's power, once so overwhelming, had become their curse. Asha watched him carefully, her eyes wide with concern. "Do you think it will happen again?" she asked. Elias shook his head, struggling to shake off the flood of visions. "I'm not sure. The relic doesn't speak in direct terms, but it's clear. Humanity's power was too much for the galaxy to handle. And now it seems, it wants us to learn from that." The hum of the relic intensified, as if urging Elias to continue. With a shaky breath, he reached out once more and placed his hand on the artifact. The moment his fingers made contact, the relic's energy surged, and another vision crashed over him. This time, the images were even more vivid. He saw flashes of a galactic council, made up of species from across the stars, gathering to decide humanity's fate. They spoke of peace, of cooperation, but also of fear, the fear that humanity's technology could once again destabilize the balance of power. The relic revealed a deep, ancient truth. Humanity had once been the guardians of the galaxy's most dangerous secrets. But in their ambition, they had unlocked powers they could no longer control. Elias gasped, pulling his hand away from the relic. "The galaxy. It wasn't just the humans who were afraid," he muttered. "It was everyone. All the other races. They knew that humanity's technology was a double-edged sword. They feared what we might do if we ever returned." The Orcs scientists exchanged uneasy glances. This was more than they had bargained for. The relic, a simple artifact, was far more than just a tool of history. It was a reminder of a destructive legacy, and it was clear now that the galaxy had reasons to fear the return of humanity's influence. In the distance, beyond the horizon, a new surge of energy from the relic shot into the sky, visible from every corner of the galaxy. It was an undeniable signal. Humanity had once ruled the stars, and now the question was whether the galaxy was ready for the consequences of that legacy. And as Elias stared at the glowing relic, he realized with a sinking feeling that the true challenge had only just begun. The galaxy would not remain passive for long. There would be those who wanted to harness humanity's forgotten power, and there would be those who would stop at nothing to keep it buried. The relic's power pulsed steadily, its energy surging with each passing moment. The air around the excavation site crackled with anticipation, and Elias Voss could feel the weight of the galaxy's eyes on him. He had uncovered the truth behind the relic. Humanity's once great empire, its rise, and its catastrophic fall. But that truth was just the beginning. The galaxy was not ready for what had been revealed, and the whispers of power and fear were spreading fast. As Elias stepped back from the relic, he couldn't shake the feeling that something far larger was at play. The relic's power had reached beyond the planet, sending waves of energy cascading through the stars. In the depths of the galaxy, in the heart of every empire and faction, the signal was being received. Leaders, scientists, military commanders, each of them knew that something had changed. The relic was not just a relic. It was a beacon, a call to action. And the galaxy was about to respond. Back at the excavation site, the Orcs scientists continued to analyze the relic, but their attempts to decipher its full meaning were futile. The artifact was resisting every effort to understand it completely. Yet, they all knew that it was only a matter of time before someone else figured it out. Someone with the power to control the relic. The implications were staggering. The Orcs, like many others, had once believed that humanity's legacy had vanished, but now it seemed that they were very much alive. In the form of this artifact, this ancient technology, on distant planets, the ruling factions of the galaxy began to stir. The Taxithan Empire, the Korath Federation, and the Thalav Dominion, each of them began to make their moves. Some sought to harness the power of the relic for their own gain. Others feared it would tip the balance of power in ways they could not control. News of the relic's awakening had sparked a race, one that would see empires collide in a battle for supremacy. In the capital of the Tithan Empire, Empress Nera stood in the grand hall of her palace, her eyes fixed on the holographic display of the relic's energy surge. The Taxithan were a race of highly intelligent beings, their empire spanning hundreds of star systems, but even they knew that humanity's power was something to be feared. "It has been dormant for millennia," she murmured, her voice cold with calculation. "But now it stirs, and it calls to us." Her advisors gathered around, each of them silent as they considered the implications. The relic could be a weapon, a tool of unimaginable power, or it could be something far more dangerous, something that could upset the delicate balance of the galaxy. "We must find it," Empress Nera declared. "We cannot allow anyone else to control it. If humanity's power has returned, we must ensure it is ours to command." Thousands of light years away on the industrial planet of Korath, the Korath Federation's high command was already mobilizing their fleet. The Korath were known for their ruthless efficiency and their vast military might. They had always maintained a careful distance from the relics of the past, but now, with the awakening of this artifact, their leaders saw an opportunity for dominance. If they could control the relic, they could become the most powerful force in the galaxy. "Deploy the fleet," Commander Nix ordered, his voice hard and steady. "We will secure the relic. No one will stand in our way." Across the galaxy, similar scenes were unfolding. The Thalav Dominion, a race of technologically advanced but morally ambiguous beings, had already sent their best operatives to investigate the relic. They, too, recognized the potential threat, or opportunity, represented by the artifact. And then, in the shadows, a different force stirred. A hidden faction within the galaxy, long thought extinct, began to awaken. The remnants of humanity, those few who had survived the fall of their empire, had been waiting for this moment. They knew the relic's importance, and they knew that it was time to make their presence felt once again. Elias Voss stood at the excavation site, staring at the glowing artifact. He could feel the weight of what was happening. The galaxy had already started to move, and every faction was racing toward the relic. But what were they truly after? Power, control, or something more? The questions gnawed at him. The relic was not just a tool, it was a catalyst. It was calling out, but to whom? And why now? Humanity's past was filled with mistakes, but it was also filled with untapped potential. Was the galaxy prepared to face the return of the species that had once ruled the stars? As Elias turned away from the relic, a final realization hit him. The race to control it was not just about power, it was about survival. The galaxy had been holding its breath for millennia, waiting for the moment when the past would rise again. That moment had arrived. And now, the galaxy would have to decide whether it was ready to face the legacy of humanity. The storm was gathering, and nothing would be the same again. The galaxy was on the edge of chaos. The relic's awakening had sent shockwaves through every faction, every empire, and every power that ruled the stars. What had begun as a quiet discovery on a forgotten planet had now escalated into an all-consuming race to secure the artifact, and with it, the secrets of humanity's long-lost power. Elias Voss stood alone on the edge of the excavation site, his gaze fixed on the glowing relic. The pulsing light illuminated the darkened landscape, casting strange shadows across the barren terrain. He could feel the weight of the galaxy's attention bearing down on him. He was the key to understanding this relic, but at what cost? The factions of the galaxy were moving swiftly, each with their own designs on the artifact, and Elias was unsure how much longer he could keep the truth contained. The HFY scientists were still working, trying desperately to decode the relic's messages, but nothing came easily. It was clear that the relic was more than just a record of humanity's past. It was a living testament to their power. The energy it radiated felt almost sentient, as though it was aware of the eyes watching it. And then, there was the question Elias kept asking himself. Why had the relic chosen to awaken now? In the heart of the Koreth Federation, Commander Nix watched the latest intelligence reports with growing unease. Their fleet was already en route to the planet, but word had come that they weren't the only ones making a move. The Axithan Empire was preparing a fleet of its own, and rumors of an ancient human faction, long believed to be extinct, were beginning to surface. The Koreth were not used to sharing, especially not when it came to power. This relic was a potential game-changer, and they intended to secure it for themselves. Activate the fleet's full capabilities, Nix ordered, his voice cold with determination. We cannot afford to wait any longer. Whoever controls that artifact controls the future. Back on the excavation site, Elias was deep in thought, his mind racing through the implications of everything he had uncovered. The visions he had experienced, the images of humanity's empire and its fall, kept playing over and over in his mind. He had seen the warnings, the mistakes that had led to the destruction of the once great human civilization. And yet, even with all that knowledge, he couldn't shake the feeling that humanity had left behind something that could redeem them, or destroy them all. The HFY scientists gathered around him, their faces filled with both awe and trepidation. Elias, Asha said softly, we need your help. The relic, it's responding to you. What does it want? Why is it showing you all of this? Elias shook his head. I don't know. But I think it's trying to tell us something important. Humanity didn't just fall because of its power. They were betrayed by their own ambition, their refusal to listen to the galaxy. But this relic, it's a warning, and it's also a promise. Ash's eyes narrowed. A promise. Not just a relic of the past. Elias replied, looking out over the horizon. It's a blueprint for the future, but it's a dangerous one, if the wrong people get their hands on it. Before he could finish his sentence, a deep rumble echoed through the ground. The hum from the relic intensified, and a beam of light shot up into the sky, visible from space. The energy from the relic was no longer just a subtle pulse. It was a beacon. A signal. Far above, in the void of space, the fleets of the Korath and the Exithan were already moving toward the planet. They had felt the surge, and now the race was on. Whoever reached the relic first would control the galaxy's fate. Elias felt a knot tighten in his chest. The galaxy was on the brink of war, and everything depended on what happened next. He could already feel the weight of history pressing down on him, the responsibility of the decisions he would soon have to make. The relic had awakened, but what it had awakened in the galaxy was a far more dangerous force: greed, fear, and ambition. The echoes of humanity's past were now reverberating through the cosmos, and with them came the specter of something far greater than anyone could have imagined. The galaxy was watching, and the final test of humanity's legacy was about to begin. Elias took a step back, staring at the glowing artifact. It was more than a relic now. It was a choice. The galaxy had to decide. Would it learn from humanity's mistakes, or would it repeat them? And in that moment, Elias knew that the outcome of this race would define the future of the stars. The tension in the air was palpable, as if the very fabric of the galaxy itself was holding its breath. The relic's pulse had not ceased, and the beacon of light that emanated from it now stretched far beyond the planet's atmosphere, reaching into the farthest reaches of space. Elias Voss stood in the midst of the growing storm, his heart racing, feeling the weight of the galaxy's future pressing upon him. The Korath Federation's fleet was already nearing the planet. Massive warships, their dark hulls gleaming like predators in the cold void, cut through the stars with ruthless precision. Their ships were designed for one purpose: to conquer. They had learned from the past, and their resolve was ironclad. Commander Nix had made it clear: this relic was a weapon, and they would stop at nothing to claim it. At the same time, the Titan Empire was moving swiftly, their sleek ships flashing through the dark expanse, propelled by their unrivaled technological prowess. Empress Nera's desire to control the relic was not born from fear alone. It was driven by ambition. The Exithan had always prided themselves on their intellect, but with the relic, they would possess an unimaginable power. And in their hands, they could finally achieve the dominance they had long dreamed of. As the two fleets moved toward the planet, the galaxy's nerves were stretched thin. In the halls of power across countless worlds, officials and leaders watched the events unfold. Would the two great empires collide in a bloody war, or would a new, more dangerous power arise from the shadows, one that might make even the Korath and the Exithan seem insignificant in comparison? Far from the battlefield, Elias was left to grapple with his own thoughts. He stood before the relic, still glowing with an ethereal light, and felt its power coursing through the air. It was a presence unlike anything he had ever encountered, and despite the terror that gripped the galaxy, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to this relic, something that could bring about humanity's redemption or its final destruction. The Orcs scientists worked frantically around him, their data streaming across holographic displays. Asha, the lead scientist, approached him, her face etched with concern. "Elias, we're running out of time. The Korath and the Exithan will be here within hours. We need to understand the relic before they arrive. We need to unlock its secrets." Elias looked up at her, his expression hardening. "It's not just about unlocking its secrets anymore, Asha. It's about who controls it. If either of those fleets gets to it first, we're looking at a war. A war that could consume the entire galaxy." Asha's eyes widened as she took in his words. "Do you think they'll destroy the relic if they can't control it?" Elias swallowed hard. "It's possible. They'll do anything to prevent the other from gaining an advantage. But this relic isn't just a weapon. It's a key to something much bigger than any of us understand." As the fleets neared, Elias realized the truth. The relic wasn't merely an artifact. It was a trigger. It had the potential to reshape the galaxy, for better or worse. And if the wrong hands took control of it, everything that humanity had built and destroyed could be repeated. The relic was not just about recalling the past. It was about creating the future. Suddenly, the first of the Korath warships broke through the upper atmosphere, sending a shockwave of energy rippling through the ground. The air shimmered, and the tremors from their ships could be felt in the very bones of the planet. A low hum filled the atmosphere, as if the Relic itself was responding to the approaching ships. The Exithan fleet wasn't far behind. Their ships, sleek and precise, cut through the void like sharks in the water, a perfect contrast to the Korath's raw might. As their vessels entered the planet's orbit, the Relic's energy intensified, rippling outward in waves, as though it had become aware of the approaching danger. "We don't have much time," Elias said, his voice urgent. "The Relic knows they're coming. It's reacting to them, and we have no way of predicting what it will do next." Asha looked at him, fear in her eyes. "Then what do? We can't stop them. Neither the Korath nor the Exithan will back down." Elias turned to face the glowing artifact once more. The answer was becoming clearer, but it was a choice he wasn't sure he was ready to make. Should he reveal everything, or should he try to prevent the inevitable war? The hum of the Relic reached a fever pitch. A wave of energy shot upward, brighter than before, and Elias felt something stir deep within him, a sensation he couldn't fully explain. The Relic was calling to him, its energy enveloping him in a strange, almost intimate connection. He glanced at Asha one last time. "We need to buy time, no matter what it takes." As the two fleets descended upon the planet, the fate of the galaxy was about to be decided. The tension on the planet's surface was unbearable. The colossal warships of the Korath and the sleek vessels of the Exithan hovered in the sky, their engines emitting a low, ominous hum as they prepared for what would be an inevitable conflict. The ground shook beneath Elias's feet, and the air around the excavation site vibrated with the Relic's energy, as if it too were waiting for something. Whatever happened next would change everything. Elias Voss stood in the center of the chaos, his mind racing, his heart pounding. The galaxy was on the brink of war, and the Relic, this ancient artifact, was at the center of it all. He knew the stakes were higher than anything he had ever imagined. It wasn't just the future of humanity that was at risk. It was the future of the entire galaxy. The Korath fleet had already begun deploying troops on the planet's surface. Their ships, massive and intimidating, began to cast shadows over the land, their weapons primed and ready for combat. On the opposite side, the Exithan fleet moved in with their usual precision. Their advanced technology allowed them to take control of space and launch strategic operations with calculated efficiency. Both factions wanted the Relic, and they were willing to destroy everything in their path to obtain it. Elias could feel the weight of their eyes on him, the eyes of the galaxy. Every major power was watching to see who would come out on top, who would wield the power of the Relic. His mind raced through countless possibilities, none of them good. He had already seen how both empires, given the chance, would exploit the Relic's power, using it to tip the scales of the galaxy in their favor. But there was another option. Asha stood beside him, her face drawn with concern. "Elias," she said softly, "you know what has to happen. We can't stop them. If they're here for the Relic, we can't stop the war." Elias looked at her, his gaze hard and resolute. "I know. But we can stop them from using the Relic as a weapon. We have to destroy it." Asha's eyes widened in disbelief. "Destroy it? Do you realize what you're saying? That's the key to everything. Our future, the future of the galaxy. We can't just destroy it." Elias turned toward the Relic, its radiant light bathing the ground in an ethereal glow. "I've seen what happens when unchecked power is allowed to control the galaxy. Humanity didn't fall because of their strength, Asha. They fell because they didn't learn from their mistakes. If either of those factions gets their hands on this, they will repeat the cycle, just as humanity did." Asha took a step forward, her face pale. "But the galaxy needs this power, Elias. Without it, we might never be able to truly unify, to truly move forward. This could be our salvation." Elias shook his head. No, this could be our destruction. The galaxy isn't ready for this power. Not yet. Suddenly, a loud boom echoed in the distance, followed by the hum of the Korath warship's engines. The fleet had begun their descent, and the first of their landing ships were touching down. At the same time, the Titan ships made their move, their sleek forms cutting through the sky, weapon systems coming online. Elias turned to Asha, his decision made. It's now or never. We have to do it. With a deep breath, Elias made his way toward the relic. The energy surrounding it surged as if reacting to his movements, a brilliant light expanding from its core. He knew that in just a few moments, he would make a choice that would change the course of galactic history. The ground trembled beneath their feet as the first volley of fire from the Korath fleet tore through the sky, slamming into the planet's surface. The relic pulsed once more, sending waves of energy rippling across the battlefield. Elias reached out, his hand hovering just above the artifact. He could feel its power, its weight, its immense potential, but also the danger it represented. This is the only way, he whispered to himself. He pressed his hand against the relic. As soon as he did, a surge of energy exploded outward, the light blinding and intense. The shockwave from the relic sent a pulse of energy through the atmosphere, creating an invisible barrier that caused both the Korath and Titan forces to stagger back in shock. In that moment, the relic's power reached a crescendo, its energy seemingly reaching out to touch every corner of the galaxy. The vast fleets above the planet hesitated, unsure of what had just happened. It was as though the relic itself had recognized the danger and sought to protect itself. But Elias knew it was too late. The damage had been done. The galaxy had already felt the call. Whatever happened next, there would be no turning back. The relic had awoken, and now it was time for the galaxy to decide. Would it embrace the lessons of the past, or would it repeat the same tragic mistakes that humanity had made so long ago? The final confrontation had begun, and the fate of the stars was no longer in their hands.